Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well. As always, my name is Allie Burke. I am a schizophrenia advocate, journalist, and bestselling author. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Stigma Fighters nonprofit organization. I apologize for the terrible lighting. I had surgery yesterday, so I have these compression things on my legs, and I have to keep my legs straight and all the pillows, so not a great quality video. I apologize, but I did want to check in with you guys. I shared in the last video that I was making a personal announcement on my Instagram. That personal announcement was made 1 week ago on Sunday. The announcement was that I was 8 weeks pregnant. My boyfriend and I experienced infertility, and we're trying to get pregnant for 2 years, and we finally got pregnant, so we were very excited. 2 days later, on Tuesday, when we went in for our 8-week ultrasound, we learned that our baby did not have a heartbeat, and that we would have to medically end our pregnancy, or my pregnancy. So it has been a hell of a week. I have been in and out of doctors and labs and pharmacies all week. I had surgery yesterday to end the pregnancy. It went well. I was home by noon. Just been resting, writing a little bit. I wrote an essay about my experience with infertility and it's called a missed miscarriage. So I wrote about it. It's 3,000 words, so I don't know if you guys want to read such a long essay, but if you do, I will link it in the description for you. I'm hanging in there. I'm still in some pain from the surgery, and I'm very tired. I'm not able to do all of the things that I would normally do. I get tired very easily. I am going back to work on Monday. I have been out for a week and a half, so it's time to go back to work. I wish I could take another week off, but I have responsibilities at work. I have an event on Wednesday, so I am going to go back to work on Monday. So that's kind of what's been going on. I don't really know what else to say. It's been a very hard and difficult time for my boyfriend and I this last week. This is not something we ever expected to have to go through, and we are going to keep trying. We can start trying again in 2 months, so hopefully the next pregnancy will result in a healthy and happy baby. So that's that. I wanted to come back and read you the next chapter as I promised in my last video. So we will do that now. I believe we're on chapter 6, maybe? I have to look where we left off last time. Let's see. Oh yes, chapter 6. Alright, here we go. Jane opened her eyes, a little startled at the darkness surrounding her. She was in a flat position, like lying on her back, but nothing was under her. She was floating. Her surroundings were completely dark. She couldn't see anything. She shivered as cold air wafted over her skin. She crossed her arms against the chill, but it was useless. It was too cold, and Jane was never warm. She wasn't scared, though. This magic, it didn't frighten her. She could feel the electricity charging through her body, like she was trapped in a bubble of it, the power of her energy separating her from the rest of the world. She became irritated as she thought of Elias. He was the reason she was here. She couldn't understand why he talked to himself so much. If he could just be quiet, she could stay with him. She grunted, upset that she was torn away from him so quickly. She remembered touching him. He was so warm. She had felt strong waves of heat set her chest ablaze when she had touched his skin. She was irritated again. She wished he was here with her. He would keep her warm. Aware that there was nothing else she could do, she closed her eyes and waited out the dark emptiness. Alright, so there's a break in the chapter. Elias leaned back at the table in the diner and relaxed, giving his best effort to keep an open mind. And Janine began. Sometime in the 1600s, random people over the world were changing. Women and men of all ages noticed unique strengths in their bodies. They had unique abilities. They didn't understand it, so in fear, they made promises to keep the world safe. They would keep their existence a secret, and they would only use their powers to defend themselves. Generations later, grandchildren of these people were acquiring the same ability as their ancestors. Still today, they are inheriting their family gift. Witches, Elias whispered. No, witches don't exist. They're enchanters. Enchanters are born with magic in their blood. Nature helps them thrive. It could be the sun, or the moon, or the earth. They manipulate elements. Elias must have had a very skeptical look because Janine closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Elias quickly evened his expression, regretting his immaturity. This was hard on Janine. The important ones, the especially powerful ones, they have a destiny. They cannot ignore it. The magic in them will force them down the path that leads to it. Janine finally opened her eyes. The woman, I think her destiny is you. Elias did not argue. He had never seen a more serious look in her eyes. He knew Janine. She wouldn't tell him any of this unless she was absolutely sure, unless she had seen it for herself. Janine continued, if you're going to pursue this, you have to be careful. They are protected. They carry auras. It's colored based on their element, but you will not be able to see it. It is only visible to those of their kind. Elias blinked. Color? Janine narrowed her eyes. You left something out? He pushed up his sleeve and held his arm out to Janine. She caught a glimpse of the glittery handprint on his arm, and she covered her mouth with both hands. Her makeup smeared under her eyes. She was crying. Janine? Elias didn't know what to do, didn't understand what he had just done. Her hands went to her chest, her voice. Music, he murmured. Janine nodded. Her name is Jane Wilds. She's not just any enchanter. She's one of a kind. Janine stared into his eyes. She's the enchanter. Okay, so there's another break in the chapter. Kate Linden sat up from the leather chair behind the desk in her office, taking a break from the paperwork she had brought home with her. She stretched her arms and walked to the opposite wall where a picture of her smiling 3-year-old boys hung, shaking her head at Elias and altogether ignoring the dead one. The office was very conservative, decorated in earth tones. The desk was oak, accommodating a computer and a framed photo of Kate in her judge gown, her face in it completely stoic. Next to the desk on the wall was a long bookcase containing mostly textbooks and references. Kate remembered that she loved to read at a time, constantly immersing herself in romance novels. She couldn't recall when she had stopped reading. She wondered how something like that could happen, how at one moment a person could possess an overwhelming devotion for literature, and then at one point in life they couldn't remember what events cut them off from their desires. Kate seldom allowed herself to think of Elias, but at the moment she missed him, yearned for his company. She wasn't feeling up to pushing him to the back of her mind tonight. She couldn't think of Elias without thinking of Janine. Kate had tried so hard to keep Janine away from her children, but she was so insistent on being there for them, even though she was completely aware that Kate and Grant did not approve of her lifestyle. Elias was devoted to Janine. Kate could never keep them apart. Kate inhaled a deep breath. She had changed so much since her mother died. Eve Hadley was so... she couldn't even think of a word awful enough. Kate ached to get away from her mother her entire life. She had to get away after Eve was gone. Not everyone was as talented as Janine anyway. Some people had to go to college. She met Grant in college. He was an aspiring law student, and Kate was in love. He was strong-willed, confident, and charming. They married just after graduation. Kate didn't particularly want children, but Grant convinced her that it was imperative to their careers. She was overwhelmed when she gave birth to twins. Shortly after the boys were born, Kate and Grant fought about everything. She thought that they could work out their marriage once Elias and Liam graduated high school and moved out. But then a disgrace was among them. Liam was gay, and it was her fault. He was her son, after all. Grant disowned Liam. Kate had no choice but to do the same. Grant even lost interest in being a father to Elias, being so close as he was to Liam. Neither Kate nor Grant had seen Liam for years before the funeral, except in court, where their choice of company was nothing if not limited. There was no emotion at the time of his passing. Kate walked to the window and watched the rain dance onto the glass until she heard the office door open. She turned to find Grant standing in the doorway. He was a handsome man, medium build, with a hard face, typical lawyer material. He was dressed in a tailored suit and conservative tie, as always. He wore his black hair slicked back, the darkness of it contrasting his ocean blue eyes. Kate looked at his lips. She couldn't remember the last time her husband had kissed her. "I have to go back to work for a few hours," Grant said. "Emily just called. Apparently there's some new information on the Camden case." Emily Green was Grant's assistant, a pretty young blonde woman who Kate was sure he was having an affair with. "Have you called Elias?" Kate asked, changing the subject in an effort to erase Grant's infidelities from her mind. Kate watched her husband's entire body go stiff, his mouth set into a thin line. "No," he answered, the one word advertising his hate for his son. "You should. They threatened him directly. He is not our concern." "Not our concern?" Kate was working very hard to keep her tone level. "He is still our son, Grant." "It doesn't matter." "They're dangerous, Grant. They could kill him." Grant's voice sunk deeper, angrier. "He's already dead." Kate turned, unwilling to show Grant her tears. She heard him leave. She crossed the room to the phone and picked it up, but Grant reappeared in the doorway. "If you call him, I'll be sure that the Superior Court knows that their judge has leaked protected information on the Camden case." With that, Kate placed the phone back on the receiver and watched her husband walk away. Alright, so that is chapter 6. I hope you guys are enjoying the book. I am going to get some rest tonight. I'm going to be spending some time with my dad tomorrow for Father's Day. And of course, Delon, who would have had his first Father's Day tomorrow if it had not been for the miscarriage. So it's going to be a tough day, but we'll get through it. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.